I'm back, bitches. Those who know me know that there are only 3 things that make me get out of bed. 1. To change the channel. 2. To clean my bedpan. And 3. A Ben Askren fight. Now, my amateur trolling aside, my main goal today is to provide public testimony on a fighter making his debut this weekend. That's right, folks, this guy has amassed a frightening number of followers since his UFC signing was announced.
So a lot of trolls are relating to him. That's why he's getting all this traction. Trolls are relating to him.
I mean, I've gained 90,000 Twitter followers in the last 2 months.
So, is Ben Askren a troll or not? I reserve judgment for now, but I'm just saying. If it talks like a troll,
I'm going to be the 165-pound champion by the end of the year.
tweets like a troll, and looks like a troll, chances are, Usman is onto something. Anyways, previously, I have made several in-depth studies on Ben Askren's adaptation of Folkstyle wrestling to MMA. Links are in the description for those who have never seen them or wish to view them again. More importantly, knowing that I might one day make further studies on him, I want to make public attempts by King Troll and Making to influence my testimony before you today. First, I present Exhibit A, where Askren, who I will now refer to as Individual 1, tried to slide into my DMs to try the good cop approach. Next, Individual 1 tried to go to the media to make public statements directed towards me. As you will see in Exhibit B, he is clearly trying to influence my upcoming testimony on how I think his fight with Robbie will go.
You know, even I was actually, this guy BJJSCOUT, have you ever heard of him? He's freaking he's a damn genius. I don't know who he is, but he is brilliant.
Finally, I present Exhibit C, where Individual 1 makes an offer to send me his DVD series in a brazen attempt to get my home address. Look at this escalation by Individual 1. From online to the real world. Let me tell you what I think about these attempts to influence and tamper with my testimony. It works. That's right. I am highly susceptible to influence. Be it flattery, gifts, or monetary compensation. There is no price too low for me, so please DM your offers right away for consideration. Alright, let's begin. But before we go into the matchup itself, a few quick text-to-speech words on Askren as a fighter. Like his trolling, a lot of thought has gone into Askren's adaptation of wrestling to MMA. He is an innovator, and is a good case study on how a folk-style wrestler's diverse skill set can be fully utilized in a fight. Now, when many people think of wrestling's role in MMA, takedowns are normally the first thing that comes to mind. But in folkstyle, mat work, namely riding, mat returns, turnovers and pinning are just as crucial. I'm not going to go over these skills, as my videos already cover these subjects in depth. But let's just say, Askren's wrist control and riding is on another level. His ability to move from inside wrist to cross wrist control is seamless. Further, his ability to sense where your balance is weak, and tilt you quickly so that your attempt to stand up is frustrated, is unparalleled. In this sequence, you can see Askren quickly getting wrist control, and breaking you down where you have no free hand to post. As his opponent breaks from the inside wrist control, Askren is already one step ahead, and has thrown a leg in for an Iowa ride. This will be very useful later. Now you can see, Askren is double-teaming the opponent's post, and secures inside wrist again, putting him in a good position to strike. The opponent again tries to explode out, but because his leg is stuck due to Askren's hook, is unable to build a tripod. Forced back on his hands, Askren looks for cross-wrist control this time. Now study this position, the opponent is almost to his knees and is in danger of posturing up. However, both of Askren's hands are occupied. How is he going to regain the advantage? Look at how he breaks his opponent down this time. Hooking up with his leg, he tilts his opponent forward, forcing him back onto his hands. With his elbows back to the floor, Askren now changes back to inside wrist control. Forced back into a turtle, Askren continues to ground and pound. Reading the opponent, to preempt their escapes, allows Askren to not rely on power to get mat returns. For example, here Askren realizes the opponent is forming a table, and will soon move to a tripod. It's too late to get wrist control, so Askren instead goes to posting on the head, to prevent posturing up. He also picks up the ankle, to prevent a tripod leg from forming. Here, as the scramble develops, Askren knows at best, the opponent is going to stand up into an unstable structure. Now moving to the other side, Askren gets a mat return, by simply pushing in the direction of where the opponent's balance is broken. Exploding to get up, only to get brought back down to square one with minimal effort by Askren, is both physically and mentally exhausting. I've gone over a lot of Askren's mat work, so I leave it to you to explore my earlier studies. Instead, I wanted to focus on studying Askren's takedowns, and why he is so effective. What techniques Askren uses is no mystery, and he lays it out for all to see.
To me, you really have upper body takedowns and double legs. And those are, if you're going to get takedowns in mixed martial arts, those are your choices.
What makes the difference though, is Askren's entry into the double leg. Check out these sequences. And pay close attention to the entry. Something has stayed consistent since his early fights, all the way to his latest one. Long story short, Askren bends at the waist, to level change, rather than dropping to his knees after his penetration step. Contrast this to how others enter into the takedown. Like Damian Maia for example. Here, Maia drops for the level change but ends up on his knees. He gets the takedown eventually, but had to first fight to get off his knees. Note how he copes with a defending opponent. He drops again to his knees and fights his way back up. Now, let's look at Khabib's typical entry into the double. Again, he looks to drop to his knees and fight his way back up to finish the double leg. Clearly, this technique has served Khabib and Maia over the years. More so Khabib. So why is Askren doing this? The answer lies in what comes after the double. Look at what Khabib does, after his double is stuffed. First, he has to fight to get off his knees, while continuing his drive. Finally, when he pushes the opponent to the fence, he starts to lock hands to go for an upper body takedown. With nowhere to run, getting the body lock is easy. Now, look at how quickly Askren switches to the body lock, once you stuff his version of the double leg entry. He doesn't need to fight to get off his knees, and he doesn't need to drive you into the fence. He immediately can look for the body lock by posturing up. By changing levels through the waist first, Askren can reserve a second level change by dropping a knee, to immediately secure a body lock, when the initial double is stuffed. This double entry and follow-up clinch, has been drilled into Askren since young, and has been a constant throughout his career. He can find the body lock quickly and in the open, chaining between lower and upper body takedowns effortlessly. This well-rehearsed and quick transition, is how Askren can take down many who are physically stronger than him. Even if they manage to power out of the first double, they find themselves quickly stuck in a sequence of upper body takedowns. Note, bending at the waist for the primary level change, isn't unique to Askren only. For example, Kevin Lee also has a similar entry. Not dropping to his knees first, allows him to keep driving forward to finish his double. Another good example of quick waist bends to level change is Daniel Cormier. By staying on his feet throughout the scramble, DC can stay nimble, and move around his opponent quickly, as he chains his takedowns. Understanding Askren's primary takedown setup, will be key for Robbie Lawler, if he hopes to avoid 3 rounds of Folkstyle mangling. In terms of stylistic matchups, there's good reason that Robbie is a 2-1 underdog. Let's start with the obvious. If Askren gets Robbie down, things don't look good at all. Robbie's primary guard is butterfly. His goal isn't to submit, but to quickly stand back up. Needless to say, that is exactly the ground fight Askren wants. Someone actively looking to tripod or turn downwards, giving him opportunities to lock on a ride. Up against the cage, Robbie's tendencies again appear, to put him in hot water against Askren. Namely, he is not very focused on hand fighting, and more on inflicting damage on his opponent. He will often forego clenching to free his hands to strike, relying on his head or a collar tie as a form of weak control. Here as he gets turned into the fence, he loses discipline on his framing and hand control, allowing RDA to drop for the double. In terms of striking, there's good news and bad news. Robbie is no mindless brawler, and I have covered him in this previous study. Watch that, if you want to know more about his southpaw tactics. In short, Robbie is constantly looking for outside foot position, to line up his left hand. The good news is, Robbie is at his best when his opponent is content to stand in front of him. This allows Robbie to dictate when to choose his entries into the pocket. He struggles when an opponent constantly gets off his center line, messing up his openings to step in. While RDA successfully used lateral movement to blunt Robbie's aggression, Askren is likely to stand in front of him, as Askren too, wants to line up his shot. However, Robbie is not very good at fighting off the back foot, and his typical tendency is likely to cost him. Typically, he will plant while hoping to absorb or slip the opponent's first blow, while looking to land his own counters. Robbie's tendency to plant to counter, rather than flee, is going to give Askren the takedown openings he needs. Which finally brings me to this fight. No doubt, Robbie and his team see Askren's tendency to bend over and run towards his opponent. And one useful weapon Robbie has is knees. In fact, that was Robbie's game plan against Askren's teammate, Tyron Woodley. Right from the bell, Robbie stayed out of takedown range and didn't look to step in, guns blazing. Uncharacteristically, he patiently waited on the outside, throwing no strikes, waiting for Woodley to shoot. In fact, Robbie's first strike was a knee, in an attempt to catch Woodley during the level change. He still wound up in the clinch, but it gave Woodley something to think about. Thereafter, Robbie stayed on the outside, throwing non-committal kicks, waiting for another shot. Unfortunately for Robbie, he got caught by one of Woodley's explosive right hands, and got finished. Nonetheless, given that Ben Askren lacks this weapon, running the same strategy again seems like a good idea. That being said, many people have tried to throw knees while Askren shoots. And well, look at how those attempts have turned out. Askren appears to have a hard enough head to eat those knees as he comes in, and still get the takedown. Thus, while on paper, timing a knee seems reasonable, the reality so far suggests otherwise. Also, don't forget that a 2-year layoff from ACL reconstruction is a tough enough hurdle to overcome, let alone the stylistic matchup. All in all, Robbie has his work cut out for him, and while I'm not optimistic on his chances, this is MMA, and anything can happen. Anyways, what I think isn't important, the question is, what do you think? Let me know in the comments how you think this fight turns out. Alrighty folks, time to change my bedpan. Till next time.
Cold War. America and Russia. Think about that. Think about how it sells. Think about that.
165, 165 isn't happening.
By that point, we're going to have 20-0 Ben Askren versus 27-0 Khabib. Someone's O's got to go. America versus Russia. I will get on his back and I will chant USA.